Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and uncover the hidden journey your stock trade takes right after you click that button.
So, you've just clicked buy on a stock. It feels totally instant, doesn't it? But really, that click is just the beginning. It kicks off this incredibly complex, high-stakes process that all unfolds over the next couple of days. So the real question is, what is actually going on during that time?
I really like thinking of it this way: the great digital handshake. This is the first and, honestly, the most crucial part of the whole journey. It's all about making sure the trade gets confirmed and finalized through a process the pros call clearing and settlement.
And this gets right to the heart of why this whole system even exists. I mean, think about it. Millions and millions of trades are happening every single day, all between complete strangers. How can you be sure that when you sell a stock, the cash actually arrives, or when you buy, that you really get the shares? That's the huge problem this entire process was designed to solve.
It really breaks down into a three-step dance. First, you execute the trade. That's you clicking the button. Easy enough. Then, the system has to clear it, which is basically double-checking all the details. And finally, it has to settle, which is the actual swap of your cash for the stock. Now, the really important thing to get here is the difference between those last two steps, clearing and settling.
Let's break that down. Think of clearing as the confirmation stage of the deal. The system is just making sure all the details are right, who bought what, for how much, and critically, that both sides can actually follow through. But settlement, well, that's the big finale. That's the moment of truth, the final exchange where the stock officially becomes yours and the seller gets their money.
So here's a huge point that a lot of people don't realize. You don't legally own that stock the instant you click buy. There's a built-in delay. For most stocks, we call this T+1. The T just stands for the trade date, and the +1 means the whole thing officially settles one business day later. That little buffer is there to make sure all the checks and balances happen properly. That is when you legally become the owner.
So who's the referee in this giant, complicated game? Well, it's an organization like the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. You'll hear it called the DTCC. You can just think of them as a highly trusted middleman. They're the ones who hold on to the stocks in cash, and that drastically cuts down the risk of someone not holding up their end of the bargain. They're basically the backbone of this whole system.
Okay, so the trade is settled. You are officially a shareholder. Congrats! But, the story doesn't end there. A whole new phase is just beginning, and it's all about navigating these things called corporate actions.
So what in the world is a corporate action? It's actually pretty simple. It's just any event that a public company initiates that causes a major change to its stock. These are kind of like the rules and events that come with being in the shareholder club, and they usually fall into one of two main buckets. And those two buckets are really important to understand. You've got mandatory actions on one side and voluntary ones on the other. One type just happens to you automatically. The other type requires you to actually make a choice. Let's use a stock split as a perfect example of a mandatory action. So let's just imagine this is your starting point. You own 10 shares of a company, and each share is worth $100.
Then the company announces a 2-for-1 split. The next thing you know, you check your account, and you've got 20 shares. But now, each share is only worth $50. This happens to every single person who owns the stock, automatically. You don't have to lift a finger.
And this is the magic trick, the key takeaway. Before the split, what did you have? 10 shares at $100 each. That's $1,000. After the split, you've got 20 shares at $50 each. Still $1,000. A stock split changes the number of shares you have, but it does not change the total value of your investment. So, as you can see, these two categories are pretty different. Mandatory actions like dividends or splits, they just happen. You don't have to do anything. But voluntary actions, something like a tender offer, for example, that's where you, the shareholder, have to make a decision, usually before some kind of deadline.
Right about now, you might be thinking, okay, this is all really technical, back-office stuff. And you're not wrong. But this plumbing, as people in the industry call it, is literally the bedrock of our entire financial market. It's the foundation of trust itself.
So why should you actually care about all this back-end machinery? Well, it affects you directly. It determines exactly when your ownership of a stock officially begins. It affects the cost basis of your investment, which is super important for taxes. It determines whether or not you're eligible for things like dividends, and on a much bigger scale, the integrity of this whole system is what gives all of us the confidence to invest in the first place.
Ultimately, it all comes back to this. This invisible, incredibly complex system is what guarantees the integrity of the market and maintains investor confidence. It's what allows millions of us to buy and sell every day, believing that the whole thing will work correctly and fairly.
And all of this leads to a really fascinating final thought. We live in a world that's moving toward instant everything, instant payments, instant communication. So as technology makes trading faster and faster, will all this post-trade plumbing eventually just disappear? What does the future hold for the secret life of your stock?